2001 A Space Odyssey is probably one of the best and best known movies of all times. What most people forget, however, is that it has a sequel, 2010, the year we make contact. And while it is easy to disregard this movie, that would be doing it a great disservice, because this movie is actually very good and also serves to somewhat explain what the hell was going on in the original. So let's get into it, shall we? The movie starts by summarizing the events of the last movie in just a quick 2 minutes, showing just how little story there was in the original. We also learned that a discovery is now derelict in orbit of Jupiter, very close to the monolith Bowman entered. Wanting to get to the discovery before the gravity of one of Jupiter's moons causes it to fall out of orbit, the Americans agreed to a joint Soviet-American expedition towards the discovery on board the Russian ship Alexei Leonov. Fun fact, Alexei Leonov was the first man to spacewalk back in 1965. The Soviet crew is accompanied by three Americans, Haywood Floyd, the guy presiding the meeting on the moon back in 2001 and the one responsible for the Discovery mission, Dr. Chandra, the creator of HAL 9000, and Walter Charnow, the chief designer of the Discovery. The three men are put into hibernation pods on board the Leonov. However, they are woken up early upon discovery of an anomaly on Europa. When a probe is sent to the frozen moon, it detects weird readings that seem to suggest the existence of life, but then the probe is suddenly destroyed by an unknown energy source. Continuing with their initial goals, the Ulyanov reaches the Discovery, where they begin to reactivate it. Chandra manages to put Hal back online and discovers what went wrong with him the first time around. Though more on that later. More unnervingly, nearby there is the monolith, the very same one Bowman disappeared into. Soon after, David Bowman himself appears to Floyd to tell him he needs to leave within 2 days before something happens.
What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
This is especially tricky as the next launch window is in over 2 weeks. Floyd, however, soon comes up with a plan to use the Discovery as a booster rocket, leaving it behind in order for the Leonov to get back to Earth. The Russians are initially skeptic towards the plan, but are convinced when the monolith disappears and a black spot begins to appear on Jupiter. As they are leaving, they discover that the black spot is made by the vanished monolith, which is multiplying. Soon, the multiplying monoliths begin to suck in the planet, making it collapse in on itself, creating a star. Discovery is destroyed in the event, but not before Bowman makes Hal send one last message towards Earth, informing them that Europa is now out of bounds. The movie ends with the monolith on Europa, now a lush tropical world. The first thing that must be said about this movie is that it actually has a story, unlike the original, that focused way too much time on monkeys jumping around and Bowman taking LSD. Especially Bowman taking LSD. Like, what does this do? What does it serve?
What is it in itself? What is its nature?
Does it help the plot? Clearly not. Does it help the themes? No, because nothing is happening. Even the style is completely removed from the rest of the movie. Honestly, it just feels like the movie being drunk on its own genius. 2010 doesn't have anything like this, managing to actually have a story. I know, how shocking. Another thing 2010 has going for it is the acting. 2001 had very robotic acting that was so detached at times that the most emotive character was probably Hal. Here again, 2010 has the upper hand with some very good acting. Besides the old cast, we have Roy Scheider as Floyd, John Lithgow as Kurnow, and Helen Mirren as the captain of the Leonov, all of whom make very good roles and unlike 2001, actually emote and behave like human beings. I know, how weird. In the effects department, 2010 doesn't manage to really rise to the level of 2001, but it sure does try and more than holds its own. Of particular note are the Leonov, that looks incredible, maybe not beautiful like the Discovery, but it sure is stunning. Jupiter imploding is a very unnerving and very effective scene, though probably my favorite one of them all is the astronauts trying to enter into a spinning Discovery. I mean, just look at it, it's so gorgeous. I mean, the fear, the wonder, the constant sense of decay, it's just a great sequence, on par with any from the original. One thing to note here is that the general style is different from the original, especially with the Leonov. 2001 was made in an age in which all sci-fi looked incredibly clean and neat, and as such the Discovery and the other ships were designed using the most utopian ideas of how future space travel would look. The Leonov, on the other side, was made post-alien, And besides revolutionizing the cosmic horror genre, another thing Alien revolutionized was the style of sci-fi ships. No longer do we have the nice clean interior of the Discovery, welcome to the cramped practical interior of the Nostromo. And this trend carries over into 2010, with the Leonov being a lot more practical than the Discovery. On the reverse side, it does fit in with the common saying that the Americans spent millions creating a pen that would write in space, while the Russians just use a pencil. So all in all, while the style is different, it isn't any worse than the original. However, what 2010 does best is the way it treats its original. Here's the thing. There are many things that make a sequel good or bad, but the fundamental two core reasons for a sequel being good or bad are respecting the original and adding to it. And this 2010 does so well. Its love and respect for the original are undeniable, as can be seen from the painstaking detail the movie took in order to recreate the sets that were completely lost in the intervening years. But where 2010 truly shines is in the way it adds to the original, mainly by answering the one big question hanging around at the end of 2001. More exactly, what happened to Hal? 2010 answers this by saying the core failure was Hal being ordered to lie to the crew about the true reason for their mission. This went against his programming, which clearly forbade him from lying. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Hal basically suffered a paranoid mental breakdown, resulting in him going AWOL. This is an absolutely great idea, as it helps the one true message HAL 9000 was supposed to deliver, i.e., that this is our fault, he is our tool improperly used by us. One thing that is more hard to say is if this was intended in the original. There does seem to be some slight hints at it with this.
No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
The hint being that the two are actually tied, and as Hal was forced to lie to the crew, he also malfunctioned. While it is hard to say if this was intentional or not on behalf of Kubrick, given that this was more strongly hinted at in the book, and given how much of an OCD nutcase Kubrick was, it was probably intended as such in the original, or at least intentionally hinted at as one possibility. However, it's still a great idea, and a good thing that this was added in. Another thing where 2010 both respects and expands the original is in the depiction of the monolith. In 2001, it's pretty clear from the Ape Man sequence that still goes on for far too long. The movie could have gotten the point across with a much shorter sequence that the monolith has a role in evolution, which leads to the conclusion that the space baby at the end is Bowman, having been evolved just like the monkeys. 2010 follows these ideas pretty well, but also adds on them. We can see how the monolith's purpose is helping life of all types to both appear and develop. They also seem to be even more immensely powerful than they appeared to be in the original, having the capacity to turn a gas giant into a star. There are things left unanswered though. For example, where exactly the monoliths come from and who created them, for they are certainly only tools, is left unanswered, as is the nature of the space baby. In general, this movie creates a delicate balance between answering questions and leaving them unanswered, unlike the original that answered nothing. So to wrap this all up, is 2010 a better movie than the original? No. For all I said about the original, it remains a true, unadulterated masterpiece that is the nearest possible representation of poetry in a movie. And while 2010 is a good, if not great movie, it cannot hope to reach that level. That being said, this movie is still an incredible one that is unjustly forgotten, and while it isn't as good as 2001, the same can be said of almost every other movie in existence, so give it a watch if you have not done so, and you won't be disappointed. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell button. I'm constantly trying to improve the quality of this channel, so if you have any suggestions, please leave them down in the comments. All feedback, be it positive or negative, will be more than welcome. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.